Thank you, Michael. Um, so, if I could only share one message with people, it would simply be yes, it is possible. Before deciding if you want to, should, or should not do something, you have to know that it is even possible. If you're looking for an easier way to do something, a lost item, if you want something to change, if you have a dream, first you have to say yes to the possibility. And I'd like to tell two stories to explain what I mean by that. The first is that in my mid 20s, I started my dream job, and it was truly a dream job. It fulfilled a 10-year long goal that I started as a teenager to travel around the world and have someone else pay for it. I worked in dozens of countries, staying in each place for 3 to 5 weeks. I had no home, no car, and everything I owned was in storage. I was the only woman and the only American on my team. During and after that job, over and over, people would say to me, "What you do is so cool. I wish I could do that." And they'd usually say it with a tone of disparagement, like, "I wish I could do that." And it was cool, and it was an adventure, and I wanted other people, my friends, to have the same opportunity. So I'd say to them, apply for the job. And the person would physically recoil, sometimes even back up a step and say, "No, I could never do that. I could never do that." And so going deeper into the conversations, there were two reasons that they did this. The first was that they really didn't want to do it. It was a fantasy. They had other possibilities and priorities in life, and that's fine. That's absolutely okay. Enjoy the daydream, but realize it's a fantasy. And what I learned from them is don't judge yourself for not going forward with the possibility of things you weren't going to do anyway. What. And I try to hold that. I still have to learn that every once in a while. The second reason that they said, "No, I can't do that," is because they judged themselves as inadequate. So they didn't even consider trying. It wasn't even a possibility for them. They self selected themselves out of the opportunity. One person, Tracy, really wanted the job. We talked about it for a long time. But she measured her weakness of no international experience against my strength of an international MBA in French. And she decided she'd never get the job and she would never apply. And she was brilliant and clever and intelligent, and she discounted her strengths. She had a CPA, she had a lot more work experience than me because they were easy and common. But to me, they were brilliant. And so what I learned from Tracy was that we can take our gifts and our greatness for granted because they come to us easily. So we think they come to everybody easily. And then we judge ourselves. We judge our weak points against other people's greatness and gifts and wrongly decide that we're not as good as they are. And we self-select ourselves out of opportunities and actions that we want. The happy ending there is that Tracy did as we do in Kung Fu, and she took a breath, and she moved forward instead of retreated, and she got the job. And to this day, she's thrilled that she had the experience. For the next 10 years, whenever I saw Tracy, she would share the ways that this international experience had changed her life and her perspective from living in a small town in Ohio. And she also laughed at her younger self for not realizing what a badass she was at the time. So the lessons I learned from years of people repeatedly telling me that they wish for something that I knew was entirely possible for them were to make sure it's your dream and your aspiration and your puzzle. And if it's not yours, let it go. Don't waste energy judging yourself as less than for not doing it. It is okay to enjoy the daydream. Then, if it is what you want, do what we do in Kung Fu and move toward it with all of your skills and abilities. In Kung Fu, even if we have a go-to favorite move, we bring all 5 families to the fight. In pursuit of possibility, we need to bring our whole selves and not measure only our weakness or our lack against other strengths and the obstacles of the situation. I'd like to take a little moment and explain what I mean by our whole selves, because it's the crux of, of this point. If I was going to write my autobiography, I would title it Truth Has More Than One Story. And it would be written on side-by-side pages with the same timeline. On the left side would be hurt and lack and loss and grit. On the other side of the page would be privilege and accomplishment, the stories of joy and love. They would be the same timeline. They'd both be truthful and they'd both be me, but they would read wildly differently and as if they were different people. Listening to the 15 wisdom keepers who have spoken so far this year reinforced to me that each of us has lived more than one story and have parallel narratives. Our strengths comes from owning the whole truth and using what we need to make what we want happen, and not being attached to just one side of the page, one side of the book. My second story is about the it. A few years ago, I kept thinking that I wanted to win the lottery. Now, we all want to win the lottery, and some of you, when I said it is possible, might have thought to win the lottery. Yeah? Now, we'd all like to win the lottery, but I was annoying myself with how often the conscious thought was popping into my head, practically every work day. And after buying a few lottery tickets and not winning, I started to ask myself questions. Do I want to win a big lottery? And the answer to that was no. That would be an obligation, a job in itself, and I'd have to give, back to the world. That didn't sound right, did it? Yeah. In a much bigger way than I had in mind. I mean, I would do it if I would do it if I won that big of a lottery. But I just wanted to win a modest lottery after taxes. And then I asked myself why. And it's because I wanted to have some cash, just a modest amount of cash. And why, I said to myself. And it was so that I could take time away from work with the security of being able to feed and house and clothe myself. So, okay, that was what I wanted, not to win the lottery. I wanted about the price of a college education to feel secure enough to not work for money for a year. Then I was thinking, well, my peers are putting their kids through college. I don't have any kids. How do they afford it? Could I do whatever they're doing to put their kids through college? So all of a sudden, or actually over the course of a year, what I really wanted, which was time, became possible. And I quit my job and I took a gap year. I won the lottery. It was possible. I just needed to hold the it lightly and let it present itself like a leverage in a fight. From finding a parking space to living the big dream, I do believe it's possible. And to make another Kung Fu analogy, moving forward, taking action and holding any plan lightly so you can hear your intuition and pivot or yield as circumstances or even your future self changes. So my message to share with the world is to react knowing it is possible. You can then choose how you want to respond. You can do anything if you choose to. If you want it, don't give up before you try. It may not be easy, and it may not look like what you expect. It may be a journey, and, as a PS, on the way, be kind, because others' truth may have a story that you cannot see. So I am not the only wisdom keeper who has come up with this idea over the course of time. So I would like to close with a quote from Henry Ford, who had the same idea. And he said it this way: whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Thank you.
So what do you think she would do if she saw that mouse right past?
I'm okay with mice. It is cockroaches I'm not okay with. That would be the left side of my page.
I know,
She was behind you for a while.
Wait, wait. I just saw her when she went over there.
Well, yeah, no, she was behind you.
Why do you know it's a her?
Well, in my native language, every
Mouse.
subject has sex assigned to it. So mice is a female. That's why I say she.
Oh.
Like German or French or whatever.
That was really good. Questions?
Did that just like come out of your head? Because that was like a lot of like story, like that's like very metaphorical and.
Was everything like
Anyway, yeah, very metaphorical and like very spiritual and all that. Did that like just come out of your head? Is that how your mind works?
Yes. I took a lot out.
How much did you write?
No, I mean, not, I just,
Okay. How much?
there's more, there's only so many stories people listen.
What was the job?
Yeah, I was wondering.
So I was a corporate auditor for a multinational company on an international team, and we would meet up in whoever was assigned to the country, it's like a Quincy assignment. Whoever was assigned to the country would show up in the country and work together, from 2 people to 6 people. And there were people from around the world on the team, and I was the only American, and I was the only one.
So what would be the job?
So we would go into the office of the company, and we would ask questions and look at processes and audit the books and the processes
And that would
internally.
Be, that would be.
So
they would hire you if they would try to improve the process.
I was an employee of the company.
Right, but that company would be hired.
I was an employee of the company I was auditing.
Are you still in this field? Are you still in this field?
No,
So
I
what do you
quit
do
my job and I took a gap year.
What do you do now?
I am an executive coach and consultant.
I see.
I'm self-employed.
Do you? Is this the next stage of your life, or do you think?
Well, I was struggling with what my message was. I put up "The Truth Has More Than One Story." That there's so many chapters to that part of my message. Whether it's how you look at other people and understand that they have more of a story than you know, or understand that cultures and people when you travel, as well as your own story. And then I actually looked at my website, and which has been up a couple of years, and the whole first page in big font says, yes, it is possible. I overlooked that was my message. I'd already put it out to the world and explained it. So then it sort of fell together. I did wake up like at 3 o'clock in the morning and wrote for an hour, because it was like, then lay on the floor.
Yeah, I like the way you put Kung Fu in there too. Thank you.
You.
Very good.
What you're saying for food.
Yeah.
And it's true, and it's all true. Tracy is true. Any other questions about anything?
That was really good.
I tried to keep it short.
I like the quote, "Truth has more than one story." Yeah, I think about that a lot in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That is my quote. And it doesn't have the truth, it's just truth. As you said it, truth, that's more than one story.
I thought you were gonna have like some huge spiritual meaning for the crate.
Well, the story behind the crate, and so Toya and Michael were here. I wanted a place to put the paper and not just throw it on the floor, scattered about, right? And anything is possible. We were like, they can't find anything, but over there, under there, if you're going to put out this box.
Do you guys ever see
Found something.
the old time radio broadcasts that they would do? And they would have, you know, they have a mic, and people would come up and, you know, if they were acting something out, but they would read it, and then they throw the paper on the ground. As they read it, they throw it on the ground, so it would be anywhere near them again.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
That's it. And then it might get, and with a mouse, that might not have been the best choice.